Alright, so what we have today, we've got a fuel pump relay here we're looking into. This is out of a Honda. The way to test these is I've got just a bench testing. We're going to do we've got the little Milwaukee battery here out of one of my power tools, and an old abandoned lead set out of an old analog voltometer. And we've got the power. You can see it's positive, negative, and so we want to test the relay to see if the terminals are active. So the way to do that is we're going to touch voltage negative and positive, and we're going to have to see what these two do right here. So even with electronics, cars with electronics and high dollar electronic items, you still have to have a pretty decent test light and things like that. Like here, this is just a basic continuity tester, and what it does is you can touch this two in here and you can see the light coming on right there. Once in a while you just need a regular test light. Of course, a digital voltometer is always the best way to go with probing circuits that are connected to a computer, but you can use Kirchhoff's law, like I showed in the one video with the injector work with the little Dodge Colt. You can actually put power to one wire and actually loop it down at the connector and then check the voltage back at the other side. You can do that. So in this case, what we've got is we've got our 12 volts here with our battery, and we've got our relay, and we're going to put 12 volts to this relay to see what she does. And you can hear an audible click. So we want to make sure that there's power across these two terminals, or that there's continuity over these two terminals. That still doesn't mean that it's going to work properly. But the way you do that is you've got this test light, or this continuity tester. Let's see if I can do this maybe one-handed. There's a kitty. How's that? That's a little better. It's a little hard for me to do all this at once, but you can see I'm getting that test light to turn on. And basically I'm just putting 12 volts in these two connectors here, and the relay is turning on inside there. Okay, so this is kind of how that relay works, and I'll show you this. So we're turning the relay on with the positive and negative. That's the one using these two connectors right here with the battery on it. So you put battery positive and battery negative, and what that does is it incites a little magnetic spring unit inside here. Basically, it's just a basic science fair project. That's all it is. Your basic relay it's got a pole like this, and it's got the wires curled around it like this. Terrible artist rendering, but each one of them comes out, and you've got positive here and negative here. And whenever you put positive to negative on this, then it creates what is it? Magnetic. How do you draw magnetic? Something like this. That's somewhat like magnets. So in order to do this inside here is you've got this little it's bad artist rendering that I did, but it's basically this here. You put power positive and negative, and it creates a magnet, and it causes this little plate in here to touch these two connectors. That's all it does. It just clicks on and off. And all you're doing is you're putting 12 volts to one side of it all the time from the battery, and then when you turn this on, positive and negative, it creates the voltage coming out of here. So battery comes in, when it turns on, then these touch, and then this load. It can be a light, it can be a fuel pump, it can be a computer, it can be just about anything that runs off a relay. It's a simple, basic relay knowledge. That's how that works. So right now I'm fairly certain that this fuel pump relay is working. So now what I need to do is I need to go find out why we don't have fuel pressure. I don't hear the fuel pump. So the easy way to test these is in the vehicle, where in the fuse box, this plugs into the top of it. It's very hard to get to. Power negative, you don't even have to worry about checking that. You can actually kind of reverse engineer this by taking these two terminals here, these two copper lugs, and you can short these two across. Now, what that does is you've got power in here, and you've got this one going to our fuel pump in the tank. So by shorting these two inside the vehicle, that tells us that we've eliminated all this other stuff. If the fuel pump runs, then we've got another problem. That means that something's not turning this relay on, or we could have a bad wire through here. So we have to watch to see what happens. So let me show you that. Alright, so checked all the fuses and they're all good. And the relay goes up in this cavity right here. If you can see that, it's pretty hard to see, pretty hard to get to. I thought about taking one of these wires here. Let's see if I can get a connection. Now I have also just a plain old test light here. That's all this thing is right here, just plain test light. So let me put the key in and let's see if we can get some sort of voltage. Alright, so we got power there. We'll see if our test light's got anything in it. So we got power there. So now I want to try and jump that other terminal where that copper lug was. You got to almost stand on your head to get in there and do this. Kind of sounds like I'm hearing the fuel pump. Let me put you down there and you tell me what you think. Okay, here's your fuel tank right here. So let's see if we can hear it. Okay, here we go. Maybe. Hear it? Leave it plugged in. See if it'll start. Look at that. Almost. Alright, here's your fuel pump relay. Under dash, fuse relay box under left side of dash. So we have a good fuse, and this is where we tested our voltage, and that was good. Going over here, this goes over to our fuel pump, which is right here, and the car did start. So we can eliminate all the way back here. We can eliminate the power. Now we've got to deal with this right here. So one of these, pin 3 or pin 4, is a problem. So I've got power on one of these connectors. So that's brown. Let's see if I can find out where that brown one goes. Alright, so this one comes out of this relay box. This is the underhood relay, and it looks like these are a power, and then the ground down here comes off PCM. IMO FPR, which is the fuel pump relay right here. So it acts as though we don't have a ground off this. How is that possible? It's coming off the PCM. Looks like we're going to have to research whether or not we've got. So when I turned the key on, I did get power on one of these lines. So it must have been this orange one right here. Right here is what I had voltage. I didn't have ground. I couldn't get ground wire to this number 10. That one comes over to this PCM right here. Let's check it. Alright, so we're going to see where we're at on this. So this is connector A. And right here under 25 is pin 16. Looks like I've got it on pin 16. So I want to try and check. I don't know if you can see this, but it doesn't beep. But I always keep these connectors, these harness connectors. So let's see if I've got an alert. Because I'm going to go inside the car and see if I can't get this to happen, and you're going to watch it over here and see what I have. Alright, so it looks like I've got continuity between that's pin 16, and that's the negative side of the relay inside there. That's the one that actually the PCM grounds to get it to start. And what I've done is I was able to tap into the this is the negative, comes out of the negative part of the relay. The relay has the positive and negative to turn on the two large terminals, and this is the negative. Now I'm going to ground this. There's nothing there, there's no short, there's nothing. Now watch what happens. Runs fine. There's no check engine light. There's nothing wrong. I even have my scan tool in there and ran some to see if it had codes. And it does nothing out of the ordinary. But if I take it off, no, it's working. Let's see how long. Let's see if I shut it off and see what happens. Give it just a few seconds. Back on. Now it's not needing that ground that I put on here. strangest thing I've ever seen before. And again, it's this pin right here, number 16. It's brown, IMO FPR, fuel pump relay. Why would it not need that ground? After all that diagnostic, it finally decided to work. I think it needs a PCM. There's no other reason for a weird glitch like that. I'm going to go test drive it and see what happens. Alright, well, seems to be running fine right now. We'll go see what it does down the road here. I gotta keep my hands on the wheel when I come up. So I'm gonna let you go for a minute and I'll be back in a few minutes. Well, so what a strange turn of events. That ground, PCM would not control that ground whatsoever. And once I attached the ground wire that I'd made up to the battery, it seemed as though it worked fine there. It's almost like it had to relearn to do the ground wire. Anyway, I couldn't find any problems as far as the PCM, the ground at the PCM. The ground on the PCM actually controls several other items, so I couldn't find a problem there. Couldn't find any. There's what's called a gang ground. It's got one bolt and it's got a whole bunch of grounds coming off of it. There's several of those under the dash. They're all tight. There's no looseness. I checked the ones under the hood, and they're good as well. So right now, with this car, it seems to be running fine. I'm going to let it go and see what it does. I'm going to leave the ground hooked to the battery, and we'll try it and see how that works. But for right now, I'm going to give you a thumbs up. Like, share, and subscribe if you like, and we'll see you on the next one. And thank you for watching.